With that being said, out of 173 locations analyzed, 31 had overlaps, which is roughly about 17.9%. Let's just go 18, right? We're looking at is literally 18%. We want to be technical, 17.9, right? But that's about 18%. When you think about rounding, that's like almost like 20% of what I was able to pull, which sounds a little bit larger than not, right? It's not like, oh my goodness, but it's something to make you go, right? 21 were directly that direct city. I told you I would do an expansion, and that expansion reached out to the county for which that city was associated. Because more than likely, if you're thinking about it from this perspective, if they're known for capture or detainment, right? They're detaining. They have to go somewhere. There is a list on their website. When I say their website, I mean the ICE website as to where these detention facilities are, right? But I generally, when I think of detention, I'm like, okay, well, outside just the detention facility that might be specifically related to ICE. Sorry, I think there's something on my lips. Okay. I was curious if there were like maybe not police departments, but like jails, right? Which might be held in your county. So that made me think to expand it just a little bit further. Additionally, just because it's not in your immediate city doesn't mean it's not in your general area. So I did push it out to the county. I'll do a phase 2 of all of this where I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, but that'll be at another time. For right now, I just want you to know that's pretty significant, right? And I also want you to think, if I start off with 21 directly in the city, like your city that you're holding this in directly has a relationship with ICE. When I expanded out to the county, that did an expansion at 47.6%, right? We almost doubled the number of places that had this additional level of, like, let's say, exposure, right? So just key metrics right there. I already kind of gave that to you. Let's see. I put it in a visual form because I told y'all, like, y'all know how I am. I'm very visual. I like a graph. I like maps. I love all of that. It's just like one of my favorite parts when I'm doing this kind of stuff is to do that. So I do have that embedded for you. Once again, I wanted to explain the methodology. I kind of set this up somewhat like a research paper inadvertently, but I also wanted to make sure it was super, super accessible. So I wanted to explain to understand exactly what I did, how I did it, why I did it, so that one, there's this high level of transparency, and anything that I felt like possibly might need a disclaimer, I put that in there. In my youth, I did do research and I was a research assistant, so that's why it has this presentation. But I just wanted to make sure that people could be informed and people had information. So I'm giving you these receipts. I'm getting into these receipts real time with y'all. So y'all can have this information. Y'all can have this as early as Monday. So if you're doing some things and y'all socialize and talking about stuff or coordinating other things, you have this as information that you can reference and index. Okay. So when we talk about the methodology, when I say the word direct, right? Because I gave you information to direct and county, you're like, okay, wait a minute. What was my process method, right? Direct means the same exact city within the same exact state. So they said from our case study yesterday, the city was Taylor, but there's cities called Taylor throughout the United States. We need Taylor, Michigan. Okay, so that's a direct connection. When I say county, I mean the county that city is located directly in, right? Not the same county name, but it's a different state. You'd be like, oh, that seems explanatory. Not necessarily. When you deal with numbers and data and research, you're trying to present this kind of information, you have to be very specific. So I'm letting you know what those specifiers were that I use. I had to often go in and make sure there's no duplications because sometimes that happens. It does happen, and I wanted to make sure I extracted all that out. Public data only. So there was some additional information I was able to come across. It was not public information, so that information was excluded from what I did analysis and review from, right? I said that I give you guys public accessible information that you could go on your computer, your phone, your tablet, your whatever, and you could find everything that I'm saying comfortably, right? And if there's some areas of discomfort, I always articulate what those are for you, right? If there's pressure points, I'm explaining those to you. And then if you send me a message or put something in the comments. I will do a video to follow up to alleviate whatever stress I can with that process, right? I'll break it back down some more if needed. At this particular point, that's like the methodology, right? In more basic ways. So this is what it looks like, right? Of all the data that I had, right? And we talking about what? Over 3,000, right? Right here. We didn't see a match, right? So we're not saying every situation. We're not saying every situation. Most of them didn't have a match. But there were some matches, right? We saw a direct match. We saw a direct match. And then when we expanded out, we had some more. And that's where we fall right here. Okay? Match comparison, show it to you this way. You have your direct, and then you have your add-on with the county. Matter of fact, look like my chart did something weird at the top one. So I'm just going to tell y'all disregard that one. Well, no. Metric-wise, it came out correct. It came out correct. Y'all know me. I'm always looking at my numbers. I'm like, wait a minute. This is just a simpler design. My brain registered a little quicker. So I'm like, wait a minute. I had a couple variations of some of my charts, just so y'all know. I wanted to give the easiest formats possible. And I comb through quite often. So I wanted to make sure I got the right one. That is, in fact, the correct one. So now that we're looking at the match comparison. The match comparison shows what? How many? 20. We see when you take a bar chart, right? So we go directly to direct. We match it up to 20 direct. We go to county, and we see this lines up to 10. That gives us what? Roughly 30. You know it's supposed to be 31. But if you can see that little tip right there, that's the one, right? So this is a representation, right? So we know this is 21 because we looked at the raw number, right? This is 21. This is exactly at the 10. This is everything else, right? Or better yet, for the total. This is your total at, you see how this is 30 and it's slightly above. So this is 31. Next time I'm going to add the number to it too, just to make it a little easier in comparison. So as you can see, that expansion effect, right? We went from here to that. So that's actually pretty significant. When we look at the grand scheme, sometimes we're like, okay, that ain't that big of a deal. Okay, when you look at it from this perspective, that expansion is quite significant. Is it not? Okay. So once again, the direct was 21. Make sure all my notes are here. Is there anything else I want to kind of show y'all? All right, you made it to the end. What? I told you we was going to come with them receipts. The kids say, what? We ate. What? Because we was getting to these receipts. I know you saw that, right? Alignment. So, with that being said, if you like content like this, go ahead and like the video. That lets YouTube know that you like the content and you support it being sent out to other people so that we can make sure that this information is being accessible out in the community who it's designed for, right? If you're someone where you like, listen, I like to marinate. Listen, we do a lot of marinating on information here on this channel. That's not a problem. Stay along and stick with us. And once you're ready, go ahead, subscribe. Subscribe only when you're ready, right? If you're really excited about this content, go ahead, comment, like, subscribe, and even share it to people who you feel like would also benefit from it. Once again, that lets YouTube know that you like this content. We do a lot of breakdowns on this channel. So I'm really hoping that you like this content and that you're finding something that you like. But also note, there may be other content, other mini-series, courses and things that are on this channel that you have not yet had an opportunity to explore. Go ahead on the page, look into that. We have lots of things happening here on this site. This is Legally Everywhere where we're what, child? We're looking into everything. This has been a very unique experience, and I will see you what in the next video because we want to do some more breakdowns. See you then. See you there next time.